Welcome everyone to this week's LotLinx Market Data Report. I'm Jen Suzuki, President and Founder of eDealer Solutions. We're a digital and phone training company. Today we are so pumped to have my colleague and friend Robert Farnett with us. He is the President and General Manager of Mike Maroone Automotive. Also with us today, the amazingly talented Len Short, one of the founders of LotLinx. He is the Chairman and CEO. Both of these guys have tremendous backgrounds and experience. Each of us incredibly driven and passionate about being a part of the automotive industry. You will certainly hear that from us today as we share the latest market data and offer our insights on how the market is performing and what's to come. Our hope is that you're going to come back every week to learn about what's going on around us and gain insights from others who are like you, seeking solutions to stabilize sales. Thanks for joining us. Please be sure to text in your questions or comments throughout our time together today. We do want to hear from you. And a lot has changed this past week. Let me share an overview. The market recovery to pre-COVID sales pace is nearly complete, with all but one of 172 markets at or above the volumes they were achieving before the pandemic hit. 129 markets posted week-over-week gains, and another 29 markets moved into positive territory. So now we just have Columbus, Georgia lagging. Despite those gains, year-over-year sales performance remains down 21% overall for May. Adjusting for the dramatic downturn in fleet sales, today's retail pace is now at a 13.75 million retail equivalent seasonally adjusted annual rate versus 17.4 million a year ago. Now, this may seem hard to believe because there's so many dealers that are continuing to post record-breaking months. I even find myself surprised as our dealer clients and their sales teams continue to send texts and call about their big successes in such a troubling economy and environment right now. Now, remember, this SAR number was 8.6 million in April. New car sales, they ended up in a positive territory, outpacing the pre-COVID levels by a positive 19.5%. And used car paces slowed slightly, now trailing new sales, but still ending up at a positive 14.4%. Those demand gaps now, they are running in tandem with the sales pace, indicating that we've worked through most of the imminent pent-up demand and engagement remains relatively strong, but the gap is closing in. Shopper volume rose to a positive 3.4% above pre-COVID levels, and the shopper engagement trended down all week, now trailing pre-COVID levels by negative 1.8%. Consumer interest remains positive in the retail auto category, with a majority of consumers answering that now is a good time to buy a car in national surveys. Certainly, we're entering a more competitive retail marketplace than a year ago. As with all retail auto downturns, it is likely to be a story of winners and losers. Strong and savvy dealers, they're going to outcompete their weaker challengers, compensating for market headwinds. And the weak are likely to suffer more significantly than the market averages. On a positive note, the economic recovery has been stronger so far. So many projected in the early stages of this pandemic. However, as the dust settles into a new normal, it's clear that the economy has suffered significant damage. As with all economic cycles, the best is yet to come. How far and long is the road to new highs? Only time's going to tell, but we seem to be starting from higher than expected ground. Keep up to date with LotLinx market reports on their website and join us every Wednesday, same time. Today, we're going to look at national week-over-week trends, and we'll take a look at the best performing and slower to recover markets. We're going to talk shop with our guest, Robert Farnett. Really looking forward to your insights on remote selling and making the sales experience easier for customers. I have to tell the listeners that Robert is one of the most progressive dealership leaders I have ever met. We've worked together in his stores for 6 years, and I watched him build an incredible team who was crushing the competition, and was then recruited by none other than the legendary Mike Maroone to be his partner. He's been miles ahead in guest experience sales processes, and we want to hear what you think about Carvana and similar business models and how the dealer model competes. We're going to finish off today taking a little closer look at VVO, that's AKA VIN View Optimizer. In my opinion, I've heard it many times now, it's the secret weapon, as many dealers have described this complementary inventory tool. So let me just give you a quick story here as we get into the next slide. Many of you may not know this, but Len Short came up with a company name, LotLinx, simply put, because it needed an inventory feel, and well, the .com was available. And the X is just there because it seemed like a cool addition. Now, Len, we want to know, where does your data come from? Look at these numbers on the screen, guys. Where does this data come from?
Yeah, our platform, manages inventory by monitoring supply, what's going on in the market with, nearing competitors, their supply levels, their pricing, the pricing moves, days on lot, sales pace, et cetera, and then demand, what's going on, across the internet with customers moving toward the purchase. And as we all know, there are hundreds of millions of actions taken every day online around automotive. There are about 4 million buyers. So our technology, tracks those actions, organizes them, and, to figure out who's actually a buyer, what devices they're related to, and then how they're moving down the funnel. The most important thing being, understanding when to present your message to switch a ready buyer on a ready piece of inventory into your stock. And so we've spent a decade actually building that data infrastructure through partnerships and direct integrations across the internet. And, so we collect, as just part of our business, this massive data set, and that's used by the machines to run our platform. And when this, COVID thing hit, I found myself going to COVID, sites, trying to, looking every hour, every, 10 minutes at how many cases there were and where they were and what was going on. And I felt like, listen, we should open up our data set to dealers, because they're doing the same thing in their business that I'm doing, trying to figure out what's going on and what should I do. And the most important thing we all know is to have accurate real-time data. And we thought, it would just be a nice service to let dealers know what was really happening in their market, good or bad, so they could plan their strategy and make, smarter decisions. So we opened this all up, and it's been remarkable, the amount of feedback and the kinds of people, the volume of people who've been watching this. And, I hope they're getting something very valuable in their decision making, and you can drill down all the way down to your market, your brand, and see what's happening there. So that's kind of where this whole thing originated. And we're going to continue to lead this data. Actually, next week, there'll be a big improvement to what's available here. We're just going to make this always accessible in the marketplace. And, a lot of dealers have come to rely on it, see how they're doing versus their market, which is really the most important thing. Is how the market doing, and then how am I doing relative to my competition. So.
Love it. Thank you so much for that explanation. And wow, over 20,000 dealer inventories compiled in this report. I'm hearing a lot of sales growth this past week. I'm also hearing that lead volumes are going up. My buddy Kobe Jackson over at Call Drip, when I asked him about online lead submissions and call volumes, he said that they're seeing this past week 75% increase of lead submissions from the COVID through late March, and that the outbound dealer call volume has increased by 40%, and inbound calls have increased significantly during the last 2 weeks of May compared to the same period for April. And, we just all got job security top of mind. Those manufacturers are still offering 90 days deferred payments, some pretty aggressive new car incentives and leases right now, still seeing 0% for 84 months for the month of June. And Robert's a GM dealer. They're showing averaging $3,800 in rebates. I saw Cadillac rebates at $9,000. Dealers are definitely rethinking their structure, and many are offering pickup delivery, making the sales process easier for customers to buy. The vibe is certainly attractive to car buyers. National week-over-week trends is showing a closer gap between volume and sales. What does this tell us, Len?
You know, the most important thing is, what kind of recovery we're having, and we're having a very steady, steady trend up. We ended May about 21% off year-over-year levels, but back to the pre-COVID sales space. That's how we've been marking as, what were we selling going into this. And it was a strong first quarter. Everybody knows that. It was really a very strong first quarter relatively. And as you know, Jennifer, I spent a decade in the brokerage business running marketing for Schwab, and there's a term when you have a kind of a bouncy market called a dead cat bounce. Often the market will go down and it'll kind of bounce back up, and then it goes down again. That's a dead cat bounce. And so I've been hoping we don't have a dead cat bounce here, that we didn't go up and then we find ourselves going down again. And what's been nice is since early April, we've had this steady trend, a little bit of a setback in early May, but it's trending nicely, and we're now at a sales pace equal to May a year ago, and that's nationally, so that's a very good sign. How this plays out going forward is anybody's guess, but the fundamentals are strong here. And buyer demand, buyer activity in the marketplace, got out of whack with actual sales because they couldn't follow through with sales. They wanted to buy, they were ready to buy, but it was hard to buy, and that's been sort of working its way through. So that green line and blue line are coming back in line, and they tend to move in concert. Green sort of indicating what's following. You can see there's a little bit of a dip going on. But I wouldn't pay too much attention to sort of daily moves, just like the market. And the engagement rates continue to be, higher than they were in that really strong first quarter we're having. So I think part of that is because more of the purchase is happening online. When you say sales, lead levels are up, I think that's, partly because people are, they're negotiating a transaction before they, come down to the store. It's never been more important to drive the consumer to your inventory and start that conversation when they're, online looking at your inventory. And I think that's what's happening here, is we've seen a fundamental shift in how the business works. And, if I had to guess, I don't think we're going back to the way it was after this all settles. I think it's going to change things, very much for the positive going forward for dealers and for customers. So there's been a fundamental shift, but never more important to be focusing on driving the buyer onto your site and your inventory, because that's where they're going to make the purchase decision. And that seems to be what's going on.
Yeah, let's have so we're looking at new cars here nationally. Let's take a look at what we're seeing with used cars. Maybe you can share some insights on used as well. And then I'd love to hear from you, Robert, on what's it been like in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, early on in the pandemic, there was a lot of consternation about what's going to happen with used. And I know a lot of dealers, they don't want to be holding a lot of used inventory through a tough sales period. So they cleared their lots of used inventory. But the dark horse here has been used car sales. It continues to run up. We've heard, stories about, part of what's driving that is people, moving who were depending on rideshare or public transportation, deciding that they're going to move to their own transportation, that may be different in more urban markets, but used continue to be, a very strong marketplace. I think everybody's recognized that, and now it's a scramble for inventory, and those levels continue to be strong, and that's a good thing for I think for dealers in the business. So usually I should shut up here and let an expert speak, but usually in a incentive environment like this, new sales become far more attractive and used sales lag, but that's not what's going on here.
No. And what are you seeing, Robert? And are you concerned about inventory, as we head into July, August, September?
Absolutely. One of the things that we're fortunate to have down here in Colorado Springs is Colorado Springs has always been a very strong used car market. I believe Primarily because we are well insulated to some of the economic downturns with the military here. We have a strong military presence with Fort Carson, with the Air Force Academy, with Peterson Air Force Base. So we have a lot of military personnel that live and work and operate within our community. So we've been very, very blessed to see our used car business continue to be strong. And at our store, we're a 2-to-1, and there's been times we're a 3-to-1 used car to new. I think the challenge that we're going to face, especially as a General Motors dealer, is inventory. And it's not just General Motors, but I think GM was hit harder because in the third and fourth quarter of last year, we dealt with a strike. Right. And that strike impacted our inventory flow. And then we were just starting to get the plants cranking again, and we had a lot of orders in the pipeline, and then obviously COVID hit. So there's definitely going to be a challenge. And what I see probably our biggest challenge that we're going to face is we get the majority of our trade-ins come from our new car sales. And in our store, it's about 73% trade-in on new and about 33% trade-ins on used. So if I look into the future, the biggest concern that I have is being able to acquire the inventory through a new car trade, which is one of the advantages we have against the competition. Is we're new car dealers and we're selling new cars and getting trade-ins. Because if you have to go out and compete on the open market at auctions and through private acquisitions, there's a lot of competition out there, and they're getting very good and they're very smart at how to acquire. So that would be the biggest challenge I see currently, at least as a Chevrolet dealer.
And what's your sales been like there through all of this?
We had a very strong first quarter. We were rocking. We moved into our new facility here, and things were going great. And then obviously March was off to a phenomenal start, and about mid-March, it did come to a screeching halt. I will say we were fortunate within our state to have online sales availability with a limited sales team. So we never had to completely close the doors. We never had a day or a weekend or a week as the governments tried to figure it out. A big shout out to Tim Jackson and CADA and all the dealers who really rallied with our local government agencies to support that. So we definitely dipped. March did not end near as well as we would like, and definitely felt the pain through April as we adjusted. But I couldn't be more proud of not only our team, but all of our manufacturer, lender, and other vendors who helped us get through it, and not just our group, but dealers throughout the country. Everybody rallied, and everybody helped everybody find a way to deal with it and to try to be successful. And we couldn't be more appreciative of that.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Robert, I've always been felt very privileged to know you. You're someone that I've always been very proud to know because you're incredibly progressive. You're always ahead of the competition with your sales experience, focused behaviors internally. I watched you take a store from 75, 80 used cars to 200 a month. I saw you do something I've never seen people do. You're in a franchise store, and just across the street build up 2 new nameplates to sell used cars. You're just incredibly inspiring. In the next couple slides, we're going to take a look at some of the best and slower recovering markets, but I'm just like on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to hear from you about, how your sales experience has changed. Did you already, because you had the infrastructure in place pre-COVID, did that help you sustain stability? What do you forecast the future to look like in retailing? You've got some good insider secrets, I'm sure, being partners with Mike Maroone, who's on the board of directors of Carvana. I can't wait to hear your insights on, how we compare with those sort of business models. But maybe, Len, could you jump in and share with us a little about the best and slower recovering markets?
Yeah, what we see here week over week is a trend as markets kind of open up. We see a cluster of the leaders being in that market. So we had a couple of weeks ago, Pennsylvania, which was a hard shutdown market, open up, and all the top movers were Pennsylvania markets. And you can see still there are some PA markets that are that are in the leaderboard here. And now that what was gratifying is to see, listen, as they loosen up, the markets come back, they snap back hard, and that's good. And now so many markets are, that's a less clear picture. You can see a smattering of different markets. What I'm starting to see though is even some of the hard hit places, like I was looking at the Chicago DMA, which is still in pretty much a lockdown, and the buyer volume and buyer demand is like through the roof in the Chicago DMA. And so what you're going to see is Chicago over the next week or two move up into that leaderboard, and that's what we've seen. That in these down markets, there's a lot of pent up demand, there's a lot of energy, and then it kind of gets released here. Now there are still some of these are the laggards. You can see a lot of Michigan markets down to the end here. What's going on there. It's a tougher place to do business right now. But there's a lot of noise in the markets. Some of the markets they'll be up strongly and then kind of flatten out. A lot of movement in sort of the middle band of markets. But generally, as overall, the overwhelming trend is a week over week improvement. There's only only a handful of markets that didn't do as well last week as they did the week before. Just a couple of them, and as we pointed out, just one that's still lagging the pre-COVID levels. So and it's getting better in June, right? So that the market environment is improving. So I think we're going to have a decent June, and we're going to start to see this kind of flatten out.
Well, let's do something real quick. Let's take a quick poll of our audience. Are you selling more cars now than before COVID? And our answers are yes, no, or flat. Just take a moment and we'll take a look at the results here. Are you selling more cars now than before COVID? And the reason why I ask this question is because, I hear this literally every week, and it sort of puts me in a cloud because I just hear all these success stories. Yet nationally, we're still down significantly. Let's see what we've got here. So, are you selling more cars now than? Yes, as our majority. That's interesting, and in line with what I keep hearing from our own clients. Let's ask another quick question. Are you making more gross now than pre-COVID? This week, I've heard from a lot of our clients, and I've heard it, we're only 3 days in right now, but in the last 2 days, I've heard it come up 3 times, that even though we're hearing all these great success stories from our clients keep saying to me, but Jen, don't be confused. We are struggling to break even at this time. So I'm wondering, are you making more gross now than pre-COVID? And unanimously, we're seeing, a yes on this answer. I'd love to get, Robert's take on that too. And speaking of Robert, for those of you that don't know, I know I keep building him up because I've worked with hundreds of people in my career very closely. And Robert is somebody that I've watched just achieve his goals over and over and over, but more importantly, just invest in people and invest in putting a customer-centric business model in place well before most dealers. So I imagine it has panned out for him. Robert, how do models like Carvana and Tesla and CarMax, how do they compare with dealerships that are now making the sales experience seamless? They're offering more services like touchless pickup and delivery. Are we changing the way that people buy cars?
I definitely think we are. I think the dealers over the last several years have really focused. I think we all understand that guests are in the driving seat. They have a lot of options out there. There's been new interrupters to the market, such as Carvana and now Vroom with their trying to ramp up their IPO, and Tesla we've had to deal with for a while now. So my take is the guests now have more control, obviously, with the internet and the power of technology, mobile phone in their hand, iPads and other devices, and they want to buy in the comfort of their setting and where they feel comfortable. There's still a large majority that feel comfortable coming into a dealership. They want to touch, they want to feel, they want to test drive, they want to engage. But what we're finding is when they do arrive, obviously we know they're visiting a lot less showrooms today, and when they do show up at the dealership, they're really ours to lose. So guest experience, I would say, is the number one thing that I've taken away specifically from Carvana. I mean, the information that I have is the same information anybody can get. If you go to their website, look at their investor relations, and just print out their business model. They're a public company, and they are, they advertise that. So yes, it's nice to have an insider on the board, but we don't get any information from Mike when it comes to anything that's not already available to the public. And personally, I've been intrigued by them, and I've just read about them. They offer a very seamless, truly sit at home, do it all online. They obviously have an advantage by having their own finance company with drive time. That makes it very advantageous for them. And then the vehicles get delivered, and they back it up with things that customers see value.
Yeah, like that 7-day money back, right?
Absolutely. Guests see value in that, and the organizations that I've been honored to work with, we've been able to offer that as well. And as I tell our team, if you wonder if there's value or not, when they're negotiating with you, offer to remove it. Ask them, well, would you do without this? And would you do without the warranty guarantee we give you, or the price match? And they unanimously say no. And that's because they do see value in it. And I think overall, consumers they're educated, they're smart. There's a lot of options out there. But I will say to the dealer body itself, we still have an opportunity here, and many are being very successful by embracing that change. And if you think about the tools, the equipment, the vendors that we have, the website tools, we can offer what the competitors can. They don't have the brick and mortar operations that we do. And Tesla doesn't have they have a showroom, but they don't have a showroom like a dealership does. So we have an opportunity to offer guests who want to come and test drive before and want to haggle if that's what they want to do, or whatever your business model is, or they can transact entirely online, and we have the availability to deliver vehicles to them and to conduct the whole transaction online. So I am very, very optimistic about the future and our ability to compete. I think we have all just, woken up a little bit during this pandemic that we've dealt with, and it's forced us to embrace it. And we've embraced it successfully, and it's made us stronger. I think it's tested people outside of their comfort zones, and that's okay. I think we'll all come out way ahead in the future.
Yeah,
Robert, you make a great point. As I mentioned, I spent a long time at Schwab, and we used to call it clicks and mortar, and that was our fundamental strategic advantage. The fact that we had investor centers, and all the other online players were, there was no place to go. And we did most of the interaction with our consumers online, but it made the fundamental difference. And I think that is the latent strategic advantage that dealers are going to have, that the customer is, that sets them apart from the online only challengers. And, so there may be some catch up to do in terms of process and, some of the, the guarantees and process, but, what you have is a store, you have that retail presence, and that is going to end up being, the structural advantage that's going to, propel the, the dealer universe forward. I mean, there are differences certainly between the car business and the brokerage business, but they're both significant purchase decisions where, when it comes right down to it, people want a relationship, and they're willing to do most of it online, but once in a while they like to have a physical presence. And I think that's what's going to set the dealer group, dealer body apart in the wars ahead.
Yeah, e-commerce is going to only accelerate. It's going to become even bigger part of our lives. The thing with like business models like Carvana is that they seem to have mastered that, online sales infrastructure that consumers want. But my dealer clients tell me, the customer is still wanting to take it from online to offline. That most of them still they ultimately come in and take delivery, even though they're using the digital tools. I'm wondering, Robert, do you see, how has pickup delivery impacted your business? Is it something you're doing standard now? Is this here to stay? Is this part of our infrastructure? And as far as, off-site test drives, to me, I can see this gaining a lot of momentum, as something that, we can offer that fulfills what customers are looking for in a more seamless, guest experience. What's your insights on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, even before COVID, our organization has had we'll deliver your vehicle anywhere in Colorado for free. And
Wow.
That doesn't matter what corner of the state it's in. And I think, my experience has been if guests are local, it's not as often that they want to take advantage of that. There are times where we'll deliver it to their home or office. Mm-hmm. But for the guests that are specifically searching for inventory, and in the truck world, being a Chevrolet dealer, we see people coming from surrounding states or other side of Colorado, and specifically in used cars. I mean, we're selling cars up into Denver and North Denver and Fort Collins and into the mountains. And it's those guests that we're able to offer that service to, that see the value in it as well. Part of it is dealing with traffic. I mean, Colorado has been booming for a long time, mm-hmm. and the traffic can be torturous, as you know. But mm-hmm. So part of it is just a convenience and, the savings of time, which is the most precious commodity I think that people have, right? We only have so much time. So there's an advantage there. So we definitely did see a spike in it during the COVID, but I would say we still have a long way to go as a dealer body to continue to embrace it and to make sure that our teams are thinking of it. I think sometimes there is a fear, specifically probably from your finance department, right, and your
yes.
sales manager, that, hey, if I can't sit in front of them in my environment, I can't be as profitable as I was before. And, we found in our experience that we actually, when we were delivering, because we weren't allowed to have them at the dealership at that time, we were running as high and in some cases higher margins in our F&I department. Part of it was, business was down a little bit. So I think the manager had more time to go through everything with them, to talk to them, to get to know them a little more, how they're going to use it, what's important to them. So I think that helped, and it really boosted the confidence of our entire leadership team here at the store that, hey, we can do this, right? We can compete with our competitors out there who offer this as a regular part of doing business with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are you saying that your finance managers are maybe doing things a little bit different now, and it's here to stay, as far as like maybe having to pitch on the phone or maybe do more video calls?
Absolutely. I mean, we had success on the phone early. We're privileged to be partnered with JM&A, and the training and guidance that they provide is just, it's outstanding. They came in, they helped us set up Zoom. We were doing Zoom calls with guests who wanted to be involved in that. And for the guests that just wanted to do it over the phone, we were just emailing over documents and saying, hey, pull this up. We were using our tools on our website that talks about the F&I products and the value that they offer. So we utilized the tools that were available, but I think the key to it was the guest was in control. How did they want to be communicated with? How did they want to buy? At what point did they want technology involved? At what point did they want to talk to an actual, human and be able to talk to the staff here, the experts? So the consumer is in the driving seat. They got a lot of options, and what we're trying to do is do our best to be able to offer them all the different ways so that we can be successful and they can enjoy their experience.
Let me ask you something a little more personal about your sales process, because I'm always going hard on improving this, for the consumer and and alerting them. So not only do our upgraded sales experience offers have to be posted on the website, I feel like it has to be part of the conversation. Have you made changes to your sales process? Say, you are hearing the incoming calls going up. We see the internet lead traffic going up. Do you present these services to all of the guests, or do you train your team to present it when the time is right, if it makes sense to this particular consumer, and it's sort of a consumer by consumer decision?
Well, I think there are opportunities to maybe, do it more unique or personal to the consumer. But for the most part, we have a value add by doing business with Mike Maroone. And, we're not the only dealer group out there that has a story to tell of why you should do business with us. So, I've tried to keep the sales process very focused on what it was prior to COVID, that here, we know the consumers online. We know that if they're calling about the car, or they're emailing in or walking in, obviously, that they've done their research just like we have. And I think upfront pre-discounted prices has been a wild success for the industry. And it's helped us build trust as well with our consumer, which is a big area that they said they needed improvement in the dealership body. So we didn't really change our process too much. I think there were areas of opportunity to tweak more on the F&I side of our process. And I think F&I managers are more adept to listen to the guests, find out what their hot buttons are, how they're going to use the car, and maybe cater a presentation to them that way. But from a sales standpoint, I think we stuck to our process pretty well.
Okay. Well, thanks for that feedback, because our dealer clients, they continue to tell me they're very concerned about profitability, and many not seeing those inventory interest credits from the manufacturer. You're a GM store, not seeing the SFE and the EBE money. I'm curious how you increase your gross per unit right now. Before you answer that, let's take a quick poll. And I'm wondering from our audience, are you more profitable now than before COVID?
Hey, Jennifer, while we wait for the answer on the poll, we have a question from Tamala Bauer, who's asking to Robert, outside of Zoom, did you onboard any other digital tool to help facilitate pickup and delivery for both sales and service?
We have looked at multiple options out there. We've looked obviously at RedCap in the past. We've looked at hiring, a staff to do it. And then we've looked at other companies that are newer to the market right now that offer the ability to do it. And I think even in the Uber world, in Lyft world, they're trying to figure out how they can help us. So we did sign up for Uber Commercial, and we've utilized that to help us. But other than that, I can't think of anything else to help with the remote delivery.
Okay, let's take a look at our poll results. Wow. Are you more profitable now than before COVID? 100% say yes. Which is interesting.
Jennifer, we've got
Go
the
ahead.
savvy dealers on.
Yeah.
We have the savvy dealers.
Well, that makes total sense because, anyone that's always keeping their finger on the pulse, always looking to hear what's, changing week over week. I think this is how you make better decisions right now because there is no experts in, how we continue to navigate these new challenges. All we can do is, absorb content and stay knowledgeable and, help us make more calculated decisions about our business. But speaking of profitability, as I mentioned, I hear from our clients, GM, concerned about the inventory interest credits and the SFE, EBE money. How do you increase your gross unit right now, Robert?
Well,
how do you preserve profitability?
I think there's a couple things. Obviously, the first thing, and I alluded to it earlier, is the support that we got from all of our, not only our manufacturer partners who are in this with us and supported us with, instead of having to hit a tier to earn, they provided a flat number. We're not going to be able to make up the EBE level of units coming in, but they have found other creative ways to support us. And then all of our vendor partners, there wasn't a single vendor partner that wasn't willing to flex. The industry saw it with TrueCar and Cox Automotive and others who reduced our cost, and we couldn't be more thankful. So that definitely had an impact on our profitability. But I think not only during COVID, but just long term, it's going to come down to that guest experience. And people will pay for a great guest experience. And that's where we're going to continue to focus here, is earning the trust and building that relationship with the guest.
Well, I'm a complete advocate of that. That's the foundation of our company. And I think why we bonded so well is we've always been a big believer in, that the customer has to feel that they have to feel confident in your abilities to serve them. They have to trust and respect you. And those come through words and conversations. At the end of the day, we're always reminded that consumers say, I think 81%, I think that's the last stat I've seen, they don't like buying a car. And we all are well aware that people say only 8% of people actually trust car salespeople, and we still have a lot to overturn. But we're looking here at some more data. Maybe I can loop Len in here, and we're looking at the Denver market here. I mean, wow, look at the sales volume here.
Yeah, very strong, a great market. And one of the things that we're doing that'll be out next week is a regional or a local market SAR. We hear about SAR, but then how does that really relate to my market? And so we're making some adjustments so a dealer can say, hey, how's my market tracking, versus not only a year ago, but the overall sales trend, of SAR, retail SAR. Because there are these, more and more, there are these, big fluctuations between the successive markets. So, Robert, I don't know how's the market doing year over year? It would look like, stronger year over year numbers for June.
I will tell you that June has definitely started out very, very strong. June is typically for our stores our second biggest month of the year. It's right there to sometimes three, but typically in that second spot. And so far, I've been very optimistic about what the month's going to look like. I think the thing that concerns us is the availability of inventory, and especially new is going to be impacted. And can we get and acquire at the right cost to be able to then turn the inventory at a profit? So I think as long as we can find a way to continue to support the demand with inventory, I think we're going to have a phenomenal month. And I think that's the same challenge that's going to face every dealer, because it's not just General Motors. a lot of plants and a lot of supply disruptions happened, no matter what your manufacturer is. So that'll be the challenge that we're going to continue to face. But the consumers have definitely been out. They've been online. They're calling, and they're hungry. I think they want to buy a car. And Jennifer alluded to earlier about the consumer and the experience with the dealer. And I tell our team all the time, and somebody told me, is what we're competing for today is who can deliver a better value proposition and guest experience. We're all, we can all buy cars and sell cars for relatively the same. And if you're a new car dealer, we can all sell them roughly for the same. It's really coming down to what's your value proposition. And when the guest shows up, it's our time to shine, and it's our time to validate what we stand for and all the things that we say we stand for in our marketing, in our online presence, and in our community presence. So it's going to come down to that guest experience, and that is where Carvana and others have really focused, and they've had success.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got to sneak this in here because you are so ahead of it with guest experience. There's been a lot of talk of consolidation during this time. I think that guest experience and the dealers that understood it and got it before COVID, it was part of their infrastructure. I feel like the dealers that really were had the same focuses that you're sharing with us right now, a strong value proposition, strong processes focused on, the customer. Really, it's been manageable the last couple months, but certainly going to help them prevail. As we talk, we see some of the weaker dealers having, continue to struggle, and we've had dealers on this weekly webinar where they're thriving, best months ever, and their nearest competitor is suffering so hard, which I always attribute to the way you're treating people. I found that the dealers that have really prevailed have been doing a lot of outreach, doing a lot of contacting customers, getting creative in how they bring people into the showroom, whether it's recall lists or it's just care calls, it's just outreach. Are you guys looking at, building more stores in Colorado? Do you feel like this is going to happen in the next year? Or do you see like some big changes with consolidation?
Well, I definitely think that there are dealers out there who were shaken by the crisis, obviously, and absent of the government response and the lifelines that were sent to business and consumers, I think we would be talking about a totally different situation. What I will say is, in my former company, one of the partners said something that has stuck with me, and I know Tamala's on the call and she'll recall this as well. And he said that culture trumps vision every time. And I think, you can't build a culture during a crisis and just flip a switch. So if your culture isn't centered around a guest and a guest experience, and it's not centered around associates and associate engagement, and you can't just turn the switch. So for anybody who has been delaying that over the last several years and hasn't really embraced the change that was coming, well, it's here and it's not going away. And if you're not progressive, and if you're not willing to step out of your comfort zone and try different things and be okay if it fails, just get up, dust yourself off, and try something else. And that is, I think, going to be the biggest disruptor from a dealership deciding, do they want to stay in this business or not. Now, as far as Mike is concerned, this is up in his camp and is the acquisitions. I can tell you that what he has told me is we have a strong desire to grow. He's used to having a lot of stores in his prior private cap days, and obviously with AutoNation. So yeah, there is definitely a strong desire to grow within Colorado and South Florida. is kind of the markets that we're looking at. Could it happen this year or next year? I don't know. I know there's a desire to grow, and there's means and capital behind that desire. So we'll see what happens.
Well,
Robert, we've got another question from the attendees. Tim Elliott's asking, the guest experience begins online. As stated, it's creating trust is a challenge. How can we better create virtual trust online?
Well, I think there's a couple ways, and it's a great question. I think being able to, again, go to technology and go to video
yes.
is one way that we can definitely build trust. I think, one of the things that Jennifer, taught our sales team is, when you have a guest online, find out what site they're on, get online with them, validate what they're seeing is what you're looking at, utilize third parties as well to support it. But I think anytime we can incorporate video into it and provide quality responses and quality videos and quality walkarounds, like, we're encouraging our team to walk out with your cell phone, do a quick little selfie deal with the video, show them, hey, here's the car, it's sitting right here, here's the features on it, introduce yourself, make that personal human connection that the guest still wants. At the point that they're contacting us, they're saying, hey, I want to engage you. And I think you have to utilize technology, and I think you have to make sure that the information that's important is out there. And what I mean by that is, what do your photos look like? What do your videos look like? It's something that I'm constantly challenging our team on, that we can do a much better job with quality photos and quality videos. And what are your seller notes like? What's your brand value story? Those are the things that I think you have to continue to be sharp. But most importantly, I think utilizing video and that personal connection is one way.
Great answer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And just a quick side note, I was in a dealership last week and I was hot on this topic. This is on the forefront. We've been talking video for years, but it's accelerated at a very fast pace. A lot of dealerships don't even know that they are paying for the integrated feature to do that selfie video in the CRM tool using the mobile app. So, oftentimes the products are sitting right there in front of you, being paid for and not being utilized. So in any event, this has been a really, really, really great conversation. We very much appreciate your time, Robert. We are wondering if that Carvana Tesla model is impacting you. And I think we're going to poll the audience here and see what they have to say. Is the Carvana CarMax or Tesla buying experience influencing your business model? Okay. Yep, I would imagine, it's a 50-50, whether it's influencing the business model. I mean, I think, the big takeaway is that, people want efficiency. They want an easy process. They want this entire purchase to be easy and convenient for them. We have one last section, and I want to just run into it real quick. Because this is what I always, and I mentioned this earlier today, is I find that this is the dealer's secret weapon. And I want you guys to see this real quick, and maybe we can have Len just kind of pull up some inventory and share some insights on this. To me, this is, first of all, it's a complimentary tool. I'm not a salesperson for this, but I have to tell you, this is one of the reasons why I love getting involved with LotLinx and what they're doing, their initiatives to help dealers. Len, maybe you could share with us, this is a dealer's inventory we're having a look at here. How many cars are we looking at in their inventory? What are we seeing? What do these dashes mean?
Yeah, we developed this tool a while ago because, as dealers focus on driving that shopping experience to their website, they need to know how successful right down to the inventory unit they're being. Like, what's delivering the buyers to my inventory, and is my inventory being adequately shopped? Because if it's not being shopped online, it's not being sold. One of our great, very famous dealers said, "A car unseen is a car unsold." And he's right. The overwhelming metrics say that, you've got to deliver that level of demand to a unit to move it. And this allowed dealers to see, hey, what is driving those shopping sessions and where are they landing? So what we do is essentially plot every unit across the bottom. You click on any of these things. I've just clicked on this 2020 Equinox. It's, it's been on lot 87 days. It's only been viewed 4 times. You want to get inventory viewed once a day. 30 times a month is the tipping point. So you got to be looking at your inventory and saying, hey, am I doing the things to drive that demand of the unit? This deal, it's a $28,000 MSRP. It's already been discounted $7,500. So that's what the advertised discount is on this unit. So, and what it allows you to do is look at not only what's being viewed on your site, but also third-party sites. So, you can look at, hey, my inventory is on Auto Trader, how much of it's getting viewed there? And what you see is, in every deal is this hockey stick. Some of the units being viewed, most of them just significantly underengaged. This dealer's, in a hard shutdown market in the Midwest, 763 units, 683 new units, and more than half of them are just not being seen by customers. And dealers are in this, have got to make every dollar work now, right? You've got to make decisions about what's really delivering, the buyer and then the transaction. And this has been, I can't tell you how many dealers have told me this is a secret weapon. It allows them to sort their inventory very easily. So, we can look at, for instance, all the new inventory, the 683, you can see exactly what's here. You could drill down onto a specific model, one-click things like price drop. So all the red marks are cars that this dealer has moved price on in the past week. You can see it's dropped price from $22 down to $5,500 on this new Trax, right? But it's not. It's been on lot 174 days, only been viewed once in that 174 days. So one of the things that dealers are realizing is price drops don't drive demand; they just shift around lot behaviors. And the worst thing to do is to drop price, have nobody view a car, and then drop it again. All you're doing is undercutting yourself. So it allows the dealer to sort of segment his inventory and develop a inventory-specific strategy. Saying, all right, listen, I need to get more demand to these tracks that I'm dropping price on that nobody's shopping. How do I, what tools do I use, to drive those digital shopping sessions? And what of my present programs are actually delivering to to those units. This doesn't make judgments about any strategy. It just shows you the cold hard facts on what's working to deliver those shopping sessions. And as we move through the long-term trend of consumers moving more online, and then the accelerated trend we've had since COVID, if they're not on your page looking at your car, picking up the phone and talking to you, they're probably not buying from you. So this is more than ever the key, the key marketing activity to make sure your units, what you're holding is getting shopped, because that's going to lead to the sale. Anyway, so we offer this. I just decided to open this up to, and there's a massive set of things you can do with it. It's very easy to use. We'll set it up for you, and you will not get a pitch from us. It's just we will give this to any dealer who wants it. You'll be able to use this as a tool and all the things that come with it, to start getting better information that, help you make trade-off decisions in your, in your marketing spend, and start thinking from the unit out to the marketplace. A lot of people think about advertising, they think about the advertising medium first. It should be Facebook or Google, not, listen, I'm holding 53 tracks that I've dropped price on, or 84 tracks that I've dropped price on, let me start there, and let me look at what media can deliver to those units. So that's what we mean by an inventory strategy. And, you know, you start changing that perspective, the rest will follow. So anybody who wants this, we'll get you set up. We'll teach you how to use it. It's very easy, very intuitive. And I'm telling you, you'll thank me. I can't tell you the overwhelming response. Dealers who've kind of, you know, integrated this tool into their decision making, and, you know, and how strongly they feel about the information it puts at their fingertips. So ping us. You know, just simply ping us, and we'll get you set up. It's a very simple thing for us to do for you. We do it all the time, and happy to have you, you know, make use of it.
Len, thanks for building this. Thanks for making this available to dealers right now. I certainly see this as a competitive advantage. Well, guys, this week's proved many gains and improvements. We're still trailing seasonally adjusted year-over-year sales volume, and there's so many factors to continue to keep your eye on. Come back next week. Join us next week. We're going to continue to bring on these industry experienced speakers like Robert today to continue these informative conversations. Thank you, Robert, for taking your time to share so many insights. And Len, you are a powerhouse of information. I love your insights. I love your conversation. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Robert, thank you. It's an honor to have you. So thank you very much for joining us. All right.
Audience, thanks for joining us. Knowledge is power. Remember, you know, data, people, process equals results. Stay informed. We'll see you next week.